Hello, this is Brian Scuttle of Sonic Cinema, and I'm here to give my thoughts on Sam Mendes' Empire of Light, which is a love story set on the south coast of England in the 1980s. It has Olivia Colman as I don't know, kind of a manager, maybe a team lead. It's kind of hard to tell. But she's one of the people in charge of making sure that the floor of this movie theater runs smoothly. And then Michael Ward is a black student who comes to work at the theater over a season, and they develop a romantic relationship. Uh, this is one of these films from a filmmaker who is trying to show his appreciation of the art form of film, the love of discovering film. And I don't know if that works. I think, and a lot of people point to the end when Hillary, the Olivia Colman character, first sees being there as, the ultimate expression of that, where it's like she watches a movie in the theater for the first time and it's being there and it connects with her. But, and that's all well and good to have a moment like that in your movie. But the thing is, it's like I think part of the problem with this movie is that it really should be Michael Ward's movie. He really should be the star of this movie, because I think he's the character we ultimately find ourselves following in this film. And yes, it deals with the racism in England in the early 80s, and what it's got those scenes where it's like Olivia Colman sees the type of bigotry and the racism that Stephen Ward's character has to face. And, it's basically one of those. It's funny, I just watched Devotion with my wife, and, that's another one where it's like, oh yeah, you have the white character almost seemingly learning about racism for the first time by seeing what the black character goes through. But I almost feel like the perspective is wrong. I mean, Olivia Colman's character Hillary is very, very passive, and we get the impression that she's gone through a lot, psychologically speaking, and that she's not really as engaging with others as she could be. And so, what does that look? And so, with Steven, it's somebody where she finally connects with somebody in the theater with Steven. Colin Firth is the manager of the theater, and he's using her for his own pleasures. But I really wish this were Michael Ward's film. I feel like that would have made this movie more interesting, and still have the connection he has with Hillary, but make it be about, she's somebody who works at a movie theater but isn't really a movie watcher, and have him introduce her to movies. If that's what you're going for, if you're going for the discovery of that love of movies, that should be the story right there. And, you get some of that, but at the same time, it's not as strong as it could be because of the fact that you don't have you don't have this. One of the things I think would have made this movie stronger is if you had Steven be a more active participant in Hillary's discovery of films. And one of the I think my favorite performance in the entire movie is Toby Jones as Norman, who's the projectionist, and I love the moments where he is showing Stephen the projection booth and I what what Norman goes through to bring a film to the screen. And as somebody who worked in projection, who really wanted to work in projection when he first started working in theaters, that was very exciting. That first moment, it took me back to those first moments of really getting to work with film in a way that I was able to share it with somebody else. And that unless you're a projectionist, unless you're somebody who's been a projectionist, I don't think you can quite understand that feeling. And it is very profoundly done in this film. And the stuff with Toby Jones was some of my favorite stuff in the entire movie. This has a score. Mendes is writing, again, I think the perspective is wrong. So, I mean, the writing is not my favorite. And as much as I love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross as a composer collaboration, I talked about them on Bones and All, which I thought was a tremendous score from them. I'm not a huge fan of Empire of Light. I think there are some great moments, but ultimately I feel like there's a lot of it that feels lifted from Soul. Their Oscar-winning score for Soul, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Overall, I think it's kind of a forgettable score from them. But I have, in Roger Deakins cinematography, Roger Deakins is Roger Deakins. And, I mean, he's a master for a reason. But I just think ultimately because of that perspective issue that the film has, all of the craft in the world doesn't really add up to much when it comes to this film. And so it makes for a very disappointing sit, which is a shame because I'm usually a big fan of Mendes' work, whether it's even now American Beauty or I haven't seen Road to Perdition or Revolution Road in a while. And, but I mean, Jarhead, 1917. I'm typically a fan of his work, and it's kind of disappointing that this one kind of landed flat for me because this movie should resonate with me, and it really, for the most part, doesn't, except for the stuff with Toby Jones. So those are my thoughts on Empire of Light. I think it's a misstep for Mendes in a lot of ways, but I think there's some good ideas there that I will wish he had figured out the perspective issue better in approaching them. So those are my thoughts on Empire of Light. Look for more thoughts on movies over the website, but as well as the YouTube channel with more quick takes. And thank you very much.